It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video, and today we're going to talk about GetMy. Now, this is a little bit of a self-promotion of an application I've been working on, and I've had this going for a few years actually, and my family was just looking for a syncable shopping list for all intents and purposes. And yes, there's tons of applications and options out there. You could just use Notes that you're syncing through Nextcloud or who knows what, but I wanted them to have their own account. They can create their own lists and their own things. And as I created it, it kind of grew a little bit here and there. So I'm continuing to do work on it. But I just revamped it recently and updated it so that you can kind of change it from dark mode to light mode and do some other things with it like that. But it scales nicely. It scales down to your phone, or to just like you see it here on the desktop. It'll scale up on the desktop, and I probably have this even zoomed in a little bit. But one of the things that I did is I've got the list, so we can make shopping lists and all kinds of really cool things. You can also create tasks, and if you're the admin, you can add tasks for other people. So like for my girls, they had chores, so I would create their chores and add it to the list, and then they could go through and check them off as completed, and we could check them, their parents, of course, could check to make sure they're completing their tasks, and that revolved around them getting an allowance, that kind of stuff. So kind of a nifty thing. It doesn't have any calendar in set up or anything like that. It doesn't do reminders through push notifications. This is a very straightforward, simple, I just need something to help me get my stuff done. So get my lists, get my shopping done, get my tasks done, get my menu created, and make sure I know what I'm eating today. And then, of course, because I'm the system admin, I've got my user access here as well. So I wanted to just show you the application and tell you about it, how to get it set up and running. Pretty straightforward if you use Docker. It's really, really simple. And I know a lot of you guys freak out when I say Docker, but it really is. It's very, very, very straightforward to get it up and running. It's built on Meteor.js, if you've never heard of it, is a really fast framework for doing some pretty cool development stuff, and it's got login, logout capabilities built into it, and it's also got it uses MongoDB in the back end. I'm using Materialize, the newest version of Materialize Web, Materialize CSS for the components and things, and it works pretty well. There's going to be little weirdnesses for sure because I'm still building it, but I wanted to share it with you guys. It is 100% open source. You can go get it, you can use it, you can modify it, you can give it to other people, you can contribute back, you can sell it. I don't really care. It's just something that solved a problem for me where I just wasn't finding the solution I liked out there with the other solutions that were out there. And I've tried several, believe me, I've tried dozens. In fact, in the last couple of weeks while I was deciding whether or not I wanted to use this one for a video, I tried several that were pretty new. Some I just couldn't get to run. Some I couldn't get to run right just because they had such weird setups and ways that you could get like a URL to work with it, and so much strangeness going on with it. Some were okay, but again, no syncing. So as I made changes in one place, I didn't see them in another place, which meant somebody might add the same thing to multiple lists or the same list, or things like that. So it was kind of not something I was after. So the nice thing about the framework that I'm using is that you get this really nice communication between your local device and the Mongo database, and it tries to sync those things up pretty regularly. So as I make changes in one place, you see them in another, and I'll show you that here in just a minute when we get into the usage of it and everything like that. So I'm going to do my video in a little bit of a reverse order, which a lot of you guys like, I know, but I'm going to show you how to use it first and what it can do, and then I'll show you how to get it up and running in the second part of the video. So if you're more interested in getting it up and running and trying it for yourself, you can jump ahead. I'll have timestamps, of course, so you can just scroll through wherever you want to see. Before I get into all of that stuff, I just want to say thank you so very much to all of my patrons over at Patreon, to all of you guys that subscribe on YouTube, and to the people who just send me a little donation through PayPal to buy me a beer or buy me a coffee. I mean, I can't tell you how much it means to me to see that come through. It means the world to me every time it happens, and it doesn't matter how much to me. It just means so much that you want to support the content, that you enjoy the content. If you haven't already done so, click on that thumbs up so people know that you like the video, and they'll see my channel and maybe learn more about open source. That's the whole point of my channel, is to teach about open source and to make sure people know that open source options are out there and that they're incredible. And then subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, so you'll get notified when I put out more videos about the amazing open source software that's out there. All right, now let's get into this video and I'll show you what this thing can do. So I called this GetMy just because it does exactly what I'm saying, which is get my shopping done, get my tasks done, get my menu made, you know, things like that. It's very simple. I had a lot more in it originally, so if you've already gone and found it before, but from just seeing me talk about it on other videos, it has changed a bit. I don't have some of the other stuff that I was adding originally. Now I am updating it to make it a little bit more easy to use and a little bit more user friendly, I guess you'd say, but it did lose some stuff. So if you go and grab this version, you will want to like probably just start over with your data, just delete the data folder and start again. And I only say that because it's going to be different data structure, and I'm sorry, but I had to do it to simplify things just because it was kind of a mess the way I had it before. And that's just part of, you know, doing development sometimes, is you figure out you messed up and you have to fix it. So I fixed it. But if you're seeing it for the first time, you're going to be set out of the box, and I'll try not to do that again. I'm actually trying to build in some things where I can clean up the data as you go, so I'm excited about that too. So I'm just going to start, I'm going to log out and let you just see what it looks like when you first come to the page, which it looks like this. There is literally nothing on the screen. So you just go up here to the upper right. Now if you have this running on your mobile device, if I bring it up over here, I can bring it down to like a mobile device size, and you'll see that it just turns into the little menu. And again, you have login right there into the menu, and if you click away, it's gone. So you click on login, you come back, and you've got your login screen there. So it does scale pretty nicely. I've tried to make sure that it'll scale nicely for mobile devices, but you come here to the login. If you don't have a login already, it doesn't create one by default. None of that weird business where you got admin or nothing like that. You need to go and register the first time, and the first user that you register will be automatically created as the system administrator. Everybody else after that will be created as a user, which has a much lower set of privileges, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know what this is telling me, but I don't want it up there. There we go. So yeah, if you've already registered, you just click on sign in. It brings you back to the login screen. So I've already registered. There's nothing special to it. You put in the information it asks for, and it does it. It doesn't send any confirmation emails or anything right now. I will address that at a later time in the development. I've done it before. It's not hard to set up, but I just haven't done it yet. So I'm going to log in here, and we're just going to hit log in, and I'm just going to tell this no. So once I log in, because I'm the system administrator, and I'll get rid of the lower level stuff for now, you can see here, so I've got my lists, and this is what everybody sees. So anything with my, they're going to see my lists, they're going to see my menus and my tasks, and then my settings. So over here you'll see I've also got manage, because I am, again, the system administrator. When I click into manage, I get a few other things. So I can manage users, I can manage lists, I can manage products, I can manage stores, and I'll show you how all these things work together and why I did it that way. And I can manage tasks, and then I have system administration, of course, and then cleanup. So this is the part that I'm working on for the data cleanup in case we have to do that in the future. So if you don't want people to be able to register, so you can do two things. One is allow or disallow registration. So if you, the first time you run it, it shows that it's off. It's actually not set, so I should fix that probably. But if you come in and you click that, it'll tell you, hey, you just allowed administration. Now I've disallowed it, and I've allowed it, and now I've disallowed it. So I basically set those to true and then back to false. I need to fix that, so it just sets it to false automatically when you first set up the system. But now if I go back, because I turned off registration, when I go to login, you'll see there is no registration link. And even if you happen to pay attention to the registration thing up here, if you go there, it's going to give you a message that says, hey, registration is turned off for the system, and it's not going to give you the form, so you can't register. So yeah, so you can definitely turn that off and make sure that if you don't want people registering on your forms, you can just make it where they can't register. So I'm going to log back in. All right, so we're back. And so if we go back in here, I'll explain real quick kind of what the system is set up to do. So first, you do have user capabilities of changing your user. So you can see I'm a system admin. I set up my family members here real quick for a test. And I can delete a user. And I do confirm before you delete somebody. So you have to say like, hey, yes, I meant to delete them. And if you click on that, it's going to delete me. And then I'm not going to be able to get a system admin back in here if I do that. So I should probably put a protection around it if you're the only system admin too. But I haven't done it, so don't sweat it. But if I came down here and clicked on that and clicked delete, it would delete them out. And then they'd have to recreate their account, or I'd have to go through and create it for them. But there you go. So user management is pretty straightforward. You can also edit user data. So if they make a mistake and then it gets created that way, you can come in and change their password for them. They can change their own password as well. You can also change what their role is in the system and their email address in the system if you want to. And I've tried to put a lot of catches around it. So if you don't make any changes in these other fields and you just change the email, all I do is update the email. So I look for changes in the fields before I do anything. But pretty straightforward to get those changes done. Real quick, I will show you, this is going to get bright, so get ready, but I'm going to turn on light mode. Oh, I have dark reader on. That's why. Set it back to light mode. I just didn't realize I had the dark reader on. Let me, where is it? Yeah, turn that off. There we go. Okay, so this is light mode. I'm sorry. And this is dark mode. So this is actually the dark mode that it should look like. And then this is light mode. So if we go back up here, I will go to manage, which this, I don't know why it's not turning the right color, but lots of little things to fix. So users, we've got lists. So you can create lists in the system, but you can do that from here as well. So here you can see I've got this grocery list and I've made it a shared list. I can mark it as completed if I want to, so you can constantly create more lists and then add items to those lists. But when you go in, you can just click here and you can say, you know what, I want a new list. And this is my Christmas wish list. And I can either share that with everybody or just keep it private. It's completely up to me. And when I click add, you'll see that got added there in the background. And then I can close this thing. And now I can go to my Christmas wish list and I can add new items to my Christmas wish list as, you know, kind of as I want to. So if I wanted apples, I could do that. If I wanted a new computer. So I did try to put in some stuff where it tries to figure out like, hey, are you typing something that already exists, and it pulls from existing items that you've added. But if you type in something new, it just adds it to that product list, and then you can move forward. Now that can lead to some duplicates because people don't pay attention and try to pick from things that are already here. But you know, I could add that as something I would want and then just hit add. Or if you start typing and you just, you know, you find what you want, you can just arrow down, and then if I highlight what I want, I hit enter, it'll just add it to the list. It doesn't have, I don't have to go click, so I'm adding things very fast with my keyboard. I don't have to use my mouse if I don't want to. So I can build out my list here. As you can see, once I get something, I can click it, and if you touch it on the phone, it's the same thing. It strikes it out. It doesn't remove it from the list. That was something that drove me crazy about any list, was when we'd say we ordered it, it would just get it off the list, and we couldn't figure out like, okay, I want to know that I ordered it, but then later, because we get our groceries delivered or we go do, you know, curbside, that kind of thing. Once we get home, we want to check, did I get this thing? Yes. If I did, then I can just check the little check mark like, hey, I received it. And this one stays on the list for me. So even if I did that and I don't check the check mark, I can say, you know, I didn't get this. Just tap it again. The strike goes away and it's not marked as something I've ordered yet. And I know I need to leave it on the list. If I want to see the things that I've already received, I can just check this box. And there you go. It's marked as received already, but I can see that it's there and I can see that part of the list until I get rid of this list, of course, and then you don't see it anymore. I can also filter my list. So once your list gets kind of long, sometimes you want to filter and see is there already something on it without having to scroll through. Just depends on how long your list gets. But if you click on the filter, this just turns into a search. So if I type A, it's going to be there. If I type Z, it goes away just because there's no Z in that chicken breast option. So there you go. And then when I'm done searching, I can just click, and then I'm back to I can add it to the list. And I try to remove things from the screen just to make it easy. But this is just, it's just a list. That's it. It's something that's simple. And I'm going to show you that on my phone, it also does the same thing. So let me get my phone set up here. So here I've got my grocery list set up, and I can just tap on that Christmas list, and you'll see I've got the same thing on the phone as I have here on the screen. So I'm going to add something from the phone in this case. So I'm just going to add a new HDMI cable. And once I tap the little add button, you're going to see that it's going to pop up on the screen all on its own. I don't have to do anything to make that happen. It just happens. And it doesn't matter who adds something to a list. If it gets added, it shows up for you. Now, I do record who added what to the list. I may use that later to help you filter things. I haven't done it yet, but I add when things were added to the list and so on, just so you can kind of, eventually there may be some use case for that. I haven't figured one out yet, but so there you go. I add things to the list, and it's pretty straightforward. It's not really super difficult to add things. I could put, I want a new socket set, and again, I'll add that from the phone. And then while I have the phone going, I can add things from the computer, and it just syncs up to the phone as well. So I could say, I'd love a new edger with DeWalt battery power. So that was a little longer. It's going to really push the edges of the phone there, but it shows up on the phone the same way when I add it from the list. It doesn't matter. And as you saw, there was nothing that fit this. This wasn't already in my list of products, but it gets added automatically. So if I go up here to manage again, so you want manage to be able to see this, but when I go to products, you can see I've got all these products that I've added and what store they go to. So I create a list of stores as well, and I'll show you that. But you can see here, like these things don't have a store because I didn't create them from this page, but I can go in and edit them so that I know what store they go to. So when I click on the little thing, it fills in the name up here, and I can just go here and pick what store this should be. And for an HDMI cable, that's going to be Amazon, so I'll just update it. And if we go down here, you'll see now it's got Amazon. And I can do the same thing for these other two items here. Now, the reason I'm putting the store is that I'm going to update the list view so that you'll have a couple of options. One is just the straight up list view where you can see different items that you've added to your list. And then the other one is going to be, I don't know if I'll tab it or how, but I'll give you a way to get to a view that says I'm going to break this apart by store, because what we end up having in my family is we have a whole list of things we need to get, but they're at different stores. And I know in Europe, like there's in certain places, you have a place to go get meat. You go to the butcher. You go get bread, from the baker. You go get lettuce and stuff from the farmer's market, or vegetables, things like that. So you go to different places to get different things. The reason I put where you get those things is so you can break down your list by where I'm going, and you're not jumping around through the list trying to find things. Instead, it'll give you a kind of a categorized breakdown of like, hey, if you're going to the butcher, here's the things that you get at the butcher, so on and so forth. And the same thing for us here. I mean, we get a lot of stuff at Walmart because it carries everything, but sometimes they need stuff from Home Depot or Tractor Supply or the True Value Hardware, or wherever I happen to be going, or need something, then I know where, what I should be getting at that location. The other part is when you go in here, you've got stores. So you can add stores to this list. So let's just add Tractor Supply and just add it. And there it is. And of course, it would show up on the phone as well if we were looking at the stores. And then if you happen to be in the products view that I showed you a while ago, if you're like, oh, hey, I see a new thing, but I don't have a store for that, don't sweat it. When you click on the stores, at the very top, I've got this add new store, and it opens up the same form for the store, and you can just add it here. So if I said True Value Hardware, I can just click on add. It adds that as a store. You can just refresh, just like that. And now it should be there. Yeah, there, True Value Hardware. I don't know why I didn't add it, but hey. So you get the idea. I'm going to give you ways to filter these things, and right here you can filter. So I have a little magnifying glass, and I can look up HD, and you'll see HDMI cable comes up pretty quick, so I can get to it pretty fast if I need to. And then on the updated version that I haven't uploaded yet, but I have it where you can also filter by the store. So again, you can see all the products from one store location, that kind of stuff too. So I'm working on this little by little and building it out, but it's just a simple list app. That's what it's made to do. Now, the part I want to talk about is a lot of these apps have all kinds of inventory capabilities. I'm not building that into this application. That's not what this does. I don't want to have to inventory my kitchen and my pantry and stuff. That's not how I work. That's not how my brain functions. If yours does, you definitely should check out Grocy, Grocy, because it does that, and it does it incredibly powerfully and well. But it was like super overkill for me and my family, and it was hard for them to kind of understand, like, how do they add things, how do they keep track of things. So I decided I'd build this myself. So I'm going to go to tasks first because it's a little bit easier. But when you're adding tasks, you can add tasks for yourself. So in this case, I would be adding tasks, for myself, and then so I'd give it the task name and the due date. And you get a little calendar pop up here, and you can pick whatever you want, and then you can cancel out when you're done. And you can go over here and say show completed tasks. So as you complete things, and then you can say show all tasks, which is basically, sometimes it hides things because they're not due yet or stuff like that. So I give you some options to see everything or see different things that you need to see. But what I use it for, and just depending on you and your family, I actually go into the manage tasks, and I have an extra little bit of information here. So I can go in and I can give this a task name, and these tasks work as chips. So I can say dishes is a task, and you see how that turns into a chip. And then I can say laundry as a task, and that turns into a chip. and I can say play with cats as a task, and that turns into a chip. So each time I type those in, I hit enter and I get this little chip, and I can take it off if I want to, if I didn't want it, but I can assign that to someone. So I should have my kids where I could add it, but I could say, you know what, I want you guys to do that starting, so this is the start tomorrow, and I'm going to add 1, and you see it adds it underneath, so I can click here again and I can say, and then skip a day and do it again, and then skip a day and do it again. So I'm giving you a chance to kind of do things in multiple fashion. When I first made it, it was a one thing, one thing, one thing, one thing, one thing, one thing, and a lot of stuff repeats. You know, I want them to do it over and over for a little while. So when I click on add, oh, I got an error. I need to fix it. I'm missing oh yeah, I have to assign somebody, so I'm going to assign it to myself. It shouldn't be me, but that's okay. There we go. So I just tell you, you had a missing required field, so there it is, and there are all of the things I just created, and they're all going to be on the task list. So if I go back to my tasks, if you check the show all tasks button, you can see everything, but what I generally show you is what's due today. So since I didn't make anything due today, nothing showed up, and we'll go here to the dishes, and you can see it's not complete, and it's not been completed, and it's due on that day. So until that day, there's no point in me doing it because I'm still going to have to do them on that day. But if this is something that I just said, as long as you get it done by that day, it's fine, then me as a person, I can go here and click on check, it's done, and it gets taken off the list. So now if I go and hide that, but I show this, let's see, maybe I got to show all, yeah. You can see I mark it so that you can tell, hey, this thing's already complete. And when you expand it, I show that it's completed and on what day it was completed. So again, just depending on the kind of task you create, you can see some details there, which is nice. And you can kind of go through and see what your kids have completed and done, which is great. Makes it easy for them to say, hey, I did my work, and you to go in and kind of confirm that. And of course, you know, you may have to go around and check to make sure they actually did swept their room. But yeah, you get the idea. So tasks, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Menus is a little bit different in my family. Again, we have this conversation on a daily basis where it's, hey, what do you want to eat tonight? And I'm like, I don't know. What do you guys feel like? Oh, we don't know. So instead, we sit down as a family and we think up a menu for the next week, or maybe a little bit more, sometimes 10 days, and we try to stick to it a little bit. So I'll show you kind of some things I built in because of how we are a little bit indecisive. So I'm just going to name this week. You can name your menu whatever you want. And again, you can make multiple menus. So I could put like next week, and so on. You can give it a date, you can give it whatever, just whatever helps you remember which menu you're looking at. But let's look at this one for this week, and I'm just going to put in what I want to have. It's just a type in box, it's nothing special. So I'm going to say hot dogs with chili, and I'm going to put in the day that I want to have that. So I want to have that tomorrow, and actually I'll put it in for today. How about, let's put it today. And then let's go and say tamales, chili, beans, rice. Sounds pretty good. And we'll put that for tomorrow. And I'll add it and continue. So you continue to build out your menu with whatever you come up with. And I like to just type out everything I want to have with it. It helps me remember what all I want to make for sides and things like that. The other thing is that when you start creating these, I'm not done with it, but I'm adding it so that you will actually have the ability, not only this delete button, but a little link button. And you're going to be able to link it to the products that you need in order to make this. It's not like, hey, I need a 4th cup of sugar or anything like that. It's just, I know that for hot dogs, I need hot dog buns, I need hot dog weenies, and if I want chili, I need either canned chili or the stuff to make chili, so I could go and get all the products that I use to make chili and link them to this meal. The next time I put this, it's going to say, oh, hey, I see that you need these things. Do you want to add them to the shopping list? And I can just go through and check which ones I need and put it, shopping, and then add it to the shopping list from there. So as we build out our menu, we also build out our shopping list for the week, and we're not buying extraneous stuff if we don't want to or need to. We're just buying the stuff that we know we're going to need for the menu that we've got coming up, which is something I'm trying to get us to be better at, so that we're thinking about what are we buying at the store and not just buying stuff that sits on the shelf for days or weeks. So once you've added your menu, if you go back to the dashboard here, which everybody gets their own little dashboard, just this one's missing if you're not an administrator. You can see, so I have no tasks due today. It'll show me if there are tasks, and it'll actually make this a longer list as you get more tasks due in a day. You can see how many lists I have. But here I can see, hey, today is hot dogs with chili. All you got to do is log in, look at the dashboard, and you can see what you're supposed to have that day for your meal, and you can go and do that. Nothing special about it. You can go back here and check out your menus if you need to go and do something. The one thing I noticed was we would have something where we did something else. So a family member said, hey, you want to come over and eat today? So we'd go that day. So we didn't have it that day. So I could just say for anything that was left, move everything by one day. And if you look, I don't know if you saw it, it was quick, but this changed from July 26th to tomorrow, July 27th, and this one changed from July 27th to July 28th. So all this button does is bump it by one day. So if I click it again, this is going to go to 28, this is going to go to 29, so I'm just going to click it. Boom. It just does it in the background. Nothing special. It doesn't do anything flashy to tell you it did it. I probably should put in some kind of toast notification or something to let you know, like, hey, I updated the dates, because it is very, very hard to spot if you're not looking for it. But this is really the application. It's nothing overly complicated. It's not, I mean, development-wise, a little bit sometimes, just because I'm trying to make things a little bit automated for you, and I'm sure there's lots of ways that you could come up with to tell me to make it better. But this is Get My. This is all it's meant to do. It's meant to help you get your shopping list made. It's meant to help you get your tasks done. It's meant to help you get your menu created for the week or the month or whatever you want to do, and just kind of help keep you on track for those things. Go through how to run that file and get Docker installed, and then we'll go through getting Get My up and running for you, and you're going to be amazed at how simple it is. Alright, I've logged into my server that I want to use, and I am at the prompt here, so you should be doing the same. If you're putting it on the desktop in front of you, great, open up the terminal and just get ready to do this. If you don't have Docker installed yet, this is the section for you. If you already have Docker and Docker Compose, you can skip ahead to the next part where we go ahead and set up the file for Get My. But if you don't, if you're wondering, like, how do I get this done? There's lots of ways to do it. I made the script just so you get the Docker CE, the Community Edition. So what we're going to do is we're going to do wget, and then dash capital O, and then we're going to put a space, and we're going to just call this install-docker.sh, and then we're going to give it the URL of this file, and I'll have that in the description and the show notes for you, so you can just copy this command. It'll be pretty straightforward. I'm going to go back to my terminal, and I'm just going to Control-Shift-V to paste that in. And so what's going to happen is wget is going to say, hey, I'm going to go grab the file that's associated with this link, and I'm going to name it this when I pull it down. Okay? So we're going to do that, and there it is. So now we'll clear it out. We're going to do ls, and you see I've got a Docker folder, and then I've got this install-docker.sh. Now Docker's already installed on this machine, but I want you to understand the process of how this is easy. Okay, we did one command. We've got our installer. Now we need to make our installer executable. So we're going to do chmod space plus x, which just means change the mode of this file to be executable. And then I'm going to give it install-docker.sh. So I just start typing in, I can hit tab, and if that's the only thing in the folder with those two beginning letters, it'll just finish it for me. And now it's executable. Now I need to run it. So I'm going to do /, which means in the current folder that I'm at, run this file. So I'm going to say install, and I'm just going to hit tab again, or in and hit tab. I'm going to hit enter. It's going to tell you, hey, you're ready to run this thing. Here's what I found. You're running Ubuntu 2204.4 LTS. It's a jammy version. That's true. And you're going to look down here through the different list of options. And if you look right here, I've got Ubuntu 2004, 2104, 2204 plus, which means everything after 2204, which is really 2004 plus technically. So I'm just going to say number 4. And it's going to say, hey, put in your super user password. So we have to have this just to run the script. I don't save it anywhere. It's just asking for it because you need it. You see, I already have Docker and Docker Compose installed, but normally it would say, do you want to install Docker CE like this one does? And you would say Y for yes. And then it would ask you the next one, do you want to install Docker Compose? And again, you would say Y for yes. Now, Docker CE actually installs Docker Compose with it these days, so the second prompt is a little bit redundant, but you might as well hit Y just in case. And then if you want Nginx Proxy Manager, so if you don't have a reverse proxy already running on your home network or your system, you may want this as well. So again, you can hit Y, and then I'm going to hit N because I don't need it. But if you want any of these other applications, feel free. But Navidrome is a music streaming player, self-hosted, completely up to you. Portainer helps you get other Docker containers up and running. Again, up to you. Remotely is for remote desktop support, mostly for Windows. Again, up to you. Guacamole is remote desktop for actually accessing remote desktop clients and other types of clients too, but through a browser again. So once you've answered all those, it's going to go through and try to run my script. Now, there's nothing to be done specifically for me because I've already got these things installed on this system, but it's going to go through and try to update everything, and it's going to go, hey, you've already got it, and it's done. So nothing special that had to be done for me, but yours is going to run a little bit longer. It should get Docker CE, Docker Compose, and any of the other ones you answer yes to installed on that system. Once you've done that, it's going to add your user that you're logged in as to the Docker group. So what you want to do is just type exit. If it closes the terminal, reopen it. If you just exit from your SSH session, just go right back into it. And the only reason we do that is to make sure that the new group assignment takes for your Docker group. So now you can just do Docker, PS, and you can see like, here's the things I'm running. You'll probably just get this title section and nothing else on the screen. But there you go. So the next thing you want to do is make a couple of directories, and you can do this with one command. We're going to do mkdir-p, and we're going to call this docker/getmy, like that. And this mkdir means make a directory. -p says, check to see if the Docker folder exists. If it does, just use the one that's there. But if not, create it. And then this next part, it says now, check to see if the getmy folder exists inside of Docker. If it does, use it. If not, create it. So all in one command, we get all of that. And so now we can move into the Docker. So cd space docker/get-my. That's going to put us into that folder. And if we do an ls, we see there's nothing in there yet. So we're going to create a new file, and we're going to do nano compose.yaml. Okay. Now used to this was docker-compose.yml. You can still use that, but compose.yaml is fine these days. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back over here to my GitLab repository for getmy. Yes, there it is. And in here I've got a README very similar to the one on GitHub, except I've got your Docker Compose file that you need. So we'll just go grab this bad boy. We're going to copy that, and we're going to go back to our terminal and Control-Shift-V to paste it in, and then we'll go through this thing to let you kind of know what's going on. It's very short. So we're going to define our services. The first one is the getmy application, or the getmy service, and the container name, we'll just call it getmy. And then right here, I've got a port mapping. So I'm mapping port 80, which means like your normal non-SSL port on your machine, to port 3000 in the container. You can change the port on the left side of this, and I'm going to, because 80 is a very common port. So I'm going to make this 8030. It's just a port that's random. It's above 8000, and it should be open. So as we go down, I've got a little health check just to make sure it's running, and then I tell it it's got its links to Mongo, and it's going to be dependent on Mongo. So if you're wondering where that Mongo comes from, I'll show you. But we're going to restart this system unless it stopped. So if we stop it, it won't restart on its own. But if we didn't stop it and we reboot the machine, reboot the server, it'll restart on its own, which is really helpful. So this is where it's referring to Mongo. So if you see here and here, this is the Mongo that those are referring to. So they're referring to this service. So they say it depends on this service and it needs to be up and running, which is nice. So we'll come down. We're going to call this one getmy Mongo. And then we're going to get the image Mongo, which is fine. And we're going to go here to the volumes, and we're going to set up a new data volume, and it's just going to be inside the folder where this compose.yaml file is at. So this is where the data is going to be stored. So it's going to store it in this place called data, and that maps to the container, which is /data/db. So you can access the data straight from your host hard drive, and you won't lose data if you need to rebuild anything about the server later, stuff like that. And again, we're going to restart it unless stopped. So we've got all that set. We're going to just do Control-O to save, and then Enter to confirm, and then Control-X to exit out of Nano. And we're really ready. We're going to do Docker space compose pull, which is going to pull down the images to this server, to this host. Just depending on your internet speed will depend on how long it might take. I tried to make it pretty small this time. I was using a Ubuntu base, and I switched it to an Alpine base, so getmy should be a little bit smaller now. But it just takes a second. There we go. It's done. And then we're going to do Docker space compose up -d, 2 ampersands, and then Docker space compose logs -f. So what we're saying here is on this first command, Docker compose up -d, it says, I want Docker compose to bring up the containers from the images I just downloaded and run them in the background, so detached or as a daemon. After that's done, I want it to run the second command, which is Docker compose, and I want it to show me the logs, and this -f means as they're coming in, basically. So show me what's happening as the logs are being built. I want to see them live. So we're just going to hit enter. And you'll see it says it's creating our containers. And then it's going to show us a bunch of output here. Don't sweat the output. We're just looking for things that look like errors. It starts up and it creates a few things in the database, and I'll have it maybe creating more because I need to set some defaults for you guys just to make it easier. But it should be pretty easy out of the gate. All right, so it's up and running. We can do Control C just to stop following the logs there. And we're going to go back to our browser. So in our browser window, we can now go to the IP address of our server host. So my host is 192.168.10.157, and I'm going to go to that port. So I'm going to say :8030, and there's get my. Now you'll notice I'm not logged in. So I'm going to click on login, and then I'm going to click on register. I'm going to create my user, so Brian, and then Brian at fixitdelrio.com. You use your email to log in. And then a strong password. Here we go, password here. There we go. And we'll log in. So if you get it right, it's just going to log you in. Nothing else to be done there. And you'll see that you're logged in, and you'll have no lists, no items, no nothing. So the first thing you want to do is go over here to manage. You can look at your users. It's just going to be you, but you're there. Okay. You can come back to manage, and you can check out your products. You don't have any stores yet, so you can add stores first. But system admin, I do suggest come in, click it, and then click it back off. Click it, and then click it back off. If you want to allow registration, leave that one on, it's fine. If you want to allow a system admin to register, turn that one on. I wouldn't, and I don't have a way for them to actually register as system admin right now anyway, so you could just leave that one off. But I'd turn them on, turn them off, just to make sure it's set to like don't allow. And then finally down here under this, I will be adding functions. There are no functions yet, but I'll be adding functions so you can clean up your data a little bit, especially when I do updates. If I have to make database changes, it'll be encompassed in those things. All right, and finally, of course, if you want to make sure that you are seeing it the way you want, if you have night reader or dark reader set up, go in and turn it off, and you'll see that it starts off with light mode. You can turn on dark mode just by checking the box, and that's just for you. That's not for everybody, so each person can set this to their own delight. But there you go. That's really it. Get My is up. You're ready to go. Just start adding tasks, start adding menus, start adding products and items, and you're good. You can create accounts for your family and help them log in, or you could just have them go create accounts, and then once they've all created accounts, you can go back into the manage and just turn off registration if you don't want other people getting on your list site. It's totally up to you. I created this because my daughter, God love her, would forget her password and then just go register again. So at some point I had like 17 Sophias and I had to go delete a bunch of them. So that's why I came in and just created this to turn it off, so that she has to either keep up with her password or come tell me and I'll reset it or change it for her. So yeah. More features to come, I promise. I hope you guys like this application. I hope if it's something you need, I hope it helps you. If it's not something you need, thanks for watching the video anyways. I truly appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, this is it. It's open source. Get out there and get it. If you want to see some features added, holler at me. Don't be disappointed if I say no, just because, again, I'm trying to keep this very simple. I'm trying to keep it very straightforward. I don't know if I'll ever do push notifications. It's just something I don't want to get into. But yeah, let me know how it goes. I'm always looking forward to hearing back from people about if it works for them, if it doesn't. If you see bugs, definitely let me know what those are, because I'd like to make sure I'm fixing bugs and things like that too. I'm not going to go into how to set up your own domain and set up things like that. I have that in my show notes, and I will have it in the show notes for this application. So if you're interested in setting it up in a domain like I had on my first page that I showed you guys, so if you want to have it on a domain like I do this one, so you can access it from outside your house more easily, I'll have that in the show notes so you can get that set up. I highly recommend actually using a VPN for doing this kind of thing. It makes it easier if you're behind double NAT. It makes it easier and more secure, so you're not opening up ports on your firewall in your home network. But it can be done, so I'll have it in the show notes for you with a step-by-step so you can get it set up and everything and tell you what you need. It's just a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but hope you enjoyed this. If you did, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along on the open source journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.